Hello and welcome to Sharing the Light. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, we're joined by the senior pastor of the Sunshine Cathedral, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, and we welcome him as always. Our topic for this particular segment today on Sharing the Light is the truth about Santa. So, as we talk about the truth about Santa today, and I say that with a smile, I almost want to put a warning about kids don't watch this one or kids at heart don't watch this one. But we're going to talk about the truth about Santa today. And so, Senior Pastor, would you lead us in a wonderful discussion on the truth about Santa and don't hurt my feelings?
You know what? The truth about Santa is this is actually good news. Bring your kids into to the computer right now, and grandma and everybody. This is a family show. Um, there there are so many anxieties around religion right now. As religion sort of fights, uh, well, we're in the 21st century, and religion is still sort of fighting the 20th century, in some ways the 19th century.
Mm.
Uh, Religion is always the last, it seems, to embrace new information and to adapt to new understandings, new findings. And they get there and then have to apologize for dragging their feet, you know. But so religion is some, whereas I think that religion should be sort of on the cutting edge of helping people think in new ways, it's sometimes actually in the way of intellectual progress and social progress. And so a lot of people who think, well, I'm just too smart for religion.
Mm.
You know, so I have to, I'm a scientist, or I'm a psychologist, or I'm a philosopher, or whatever. I can't, I'm too smart for religion. And so we lose a lot of good thinking people because the God and the religion and the system that we have presented seems superstitious, it seems exclusive, it seems narrow-minded, it sometimes seems hateful, to the other. And so, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of good people because they say, I just can't be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what God is about, then I just won't have any thank you. And then I remember that wonderful, that wonderful piece from the New York Times, that historical article, Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. And so that's always where I sort of go with people who say, well, if there's a God, why does God care how we couple up?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if love is a good thing, why would God care if two men love each other, or two women love each other? If there is a God, why would God allow war or AIDS or terrible things? Or if there is a God, why would God care what group you belong to? Why would God
Mm-hmm.
have a preference for Catholics over Protestants, or Pentecostals over evangelicals, or Christians over Jews, or like what kind of God is this? And so they left with this question: is there a God? Could there be a God? Because the way God has been presented seems so irrational, so silly, really. And and I think that this wonderful story about this truth about Santa Claus actually comes to God's rescue in this
Mm.
conversation. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, and a child writes in a question: is there really Santa Claus? And the commentator basically says that Santa represents all these wonderful things. And these wonderful things that Santa represents are true and necessary, love and kindness and generosity. And so, speaking in this sort of allegorical and symbolic way, in a way that validates what a child needs to hear, but at the same time is true to adult understandings too, the writer says, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. And so, for people who have doubts about God, for people who have doubts about the validity of religion, for people who have doubts about whether or not faith can be rational and reasonable and helpful, I just always want to say, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Yes, Virginia, there is a God. Yes, Virginia, there is a reasonable and wonderful and life-giving way to be religious.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not whatever you believe about God, whatever you've heard about God, maybe you just can't get past your doubts about God. What does God represent? Well, God represents, now for some people, God represents meanness and exclusivity. Well, that God I don't believe in either. But if for you, God represents love and kindness and generosity and inclusivity and goodwill and hope, well, those characteristics exist in the human heart. They exist in the human family. Not only do they exist, but they are necessary. We can't thrive without them.
Right.
And these are universal characteristics. They are eternal characteristics. And so the best that God represents is real. And so, yes, Virginia, there is a God. Yes, Virginia, there is truth, and there is hope, and there is beauty, and there is justice, and there is peace, and there is the longing for those things, and the ability for us to work together to achieve those things. And so maybe, we've heard some silly things about Santa Claus, flying around on a reindeer. Well, that seems kind of silly. But this Santa image about being generous and giving and leaving no child out, that's a beautiful story that represents human generosity, human kindness, human love. All of that's very true. So maybe we've heard some silly things about God, but the bigger picture about God is that God is in the human heart. God is love. God is everywhere and at all times present, leaving no one out. And those characteristics are life-giving and they are encouraging. And during the holiday season, we sort of seem to drift toward that. I mean, there's Hanukkah, there's Christmas, there's all of these, there's Kwanzaa, there's New Year's, there's all of these things sort of pointing us to hope and community and family and celebration, reminding us not only the truth about Santa, but the truth about this divine presence, which is love, which leaves no one out. And once we embrace the power of love and hope and generosity and goodwill and allow that power to express in, through, and as us, well, then we feel better about our world and we make our world a better place. And so, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, and that truth about Santa is also true about God. Yes, Virginia, there is a God, and it is expressed to the degree that we allow God-like characteristics to be made manifest in our lives.
Wow, that is a wonderful segment on the truth about Santa. And I want to thank you for joining us here today on Sharing the Light. And once again, may you always be blessed.